So in today's training, we're going to be talking about a social media posting formula for more leads and sales into your business. Now, first of all, what I want to start with is think about this. Typically, when you see someone do a post for their business, you know it's for their business, right? You can see that it's salesy. And our objective is actually not to get a sale. All right. Now you may be thinking, well, that's crazy. I can't grow my business without getting leads and sales. True. However, we're going to go about it in a different way so that you are actually going to attract more people. So our intention and expectation is actually to grow interest with people, to grow the following of people who are actually looking at our content, because that's actually going to grow our leads and it's going to grow the prospects that we bring into our business. All right. And when we can do it in the right way with the right type of post, we can really start to build that know, like, and trust with people. And that's what it's all about, right? People will do business with someone who they know, like, and trust. So with that being said, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about some strategies that are really going to help you get that interest into your business, right? What I don't want you to do, and again, this might be something you've done in the past. I know it was something I was guilty of years ago, is you don't want to be sending out links for sales, okay? You actually want to personalize your post and share a story, all right? So you're not going to be sending out your links. And I know this is pretty different, but today I'm going to share with you 4 tips of how you can successfully do this, all right? So the first thing is I want you to pick one part of your story. Now think about this. If you've been in this industry for a long time, you might have a really long story, but we don't want you to share that entire story at one time. We want you to break this story up into micro content, so little bites of your story. And so when you go ahead and do a post, we're going to just pick one little piece of that story. Now, what we want you to do is we want to make sure that you actually state out what it is so that people are going to know what the expectation is with this post, all right? So the second tip I have for you is to be clear and concise. So clear and concise with the language that you're using. You don't want to be doing a post that's a mile long. You really want to keep this shorter, because think about this. If someone has a really long post, how often do you actually go ahead and read the entire post? Now, maybe you do once in a while, but are you going to do that all the time? Are you going to do that on a regular basis? Because you got to think about who your perfect prospect is, right? Who that audience is that you're speaking to, and you need to speak to them in that way. Most people are not going to spend the time to read a long and lengthy post. So we really want you to keep this clear and concise. And think about, is this a post that if you were to look at it, you would be interested in, right? Is it something that you would read? All right, so when you're doing that, you want to make sure also when you're clear and concise that you're breaking up your thoughts. All right, so you don't want to bunch all your thoughts together. You actually want to be able to break up your thoughts when you do this. All right, so the third thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pay attention to the spacing. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, again, if we have this really long and lengthy post, people aren't going to read it, but we can actually get away with having a little bit longer post if we can pay attention to the spacing and make it more conversational with people. All right, so that when they're reading it, their eyes are going to continue to move across, right? Make it like you're talking with them. You know, use language that you would if you were in a conversation with somebody. So it's very conversational. And when that happens and you put the proper spacing in, people are actually going to be able to just keep reading through. And they're going to keep reading through because they're interested, right? It's going to make it much more interesting to them. And the last thing with that is you're going to want to make sure that you're putting spaces in between your thoughts. All right, so you're going to write it as if it was conversational, like you're actually talking with the person, and then you're actually going to have some spaces in between your thoughts. So when you do this, it's going to be very appealing to the reader, and especially if it's broken down too and not in one big bulk paragraph. All right, so then the fourth tip we're going to share today is to actually use emojis. Now, you got to be careful with emojis. People can go overboard with emojis. What I want you to do is I want you to use the emojis for emphasis. So maybe at the end of a sentence, not necessarily in place of words. Because when you're doing it in place of words, sometimes it's really confusing to the reader. And we don't want it to be confusing, because if they're confused, they're going to move on. And we don't want them to do that. We want them to stop their scroll and get involved in what it is that you're writing about. And because you got to remember, your intention here is to actually get people to reach out to you, to get people to interact with you. Okay? Hopefully that's making sense. So just to kind of recap here, when you're doing these 4 tips, you also are going to want to make sure that it's broken down in a way that makes sense to the reader. So first of all, again, in the very beginning, when you're picking up one part of your story, you want to really state one sentence so that the reader's going to immediately know what that expectation is, right? Maybe it's a bold statement, maybe it's just a sentence, but that's how you're going to want to start out. Then you're going to start to go into your story a little bit. And when you start to go into your story, you're going to talk about where life was headed before, right? Where life was headed. Because you want to talk about the struggles you had, you know, whether it be with a business, maybe it's with weight loss, whatever it is that you're looking for. But you want to be talking about those pain points, those struggles that you had. And then you're going to transition that into a solution. You know, where's life now? Where has it taken you, right? Where is your life headed with the solution that you've now got in place? And then lastly, you're going to have your call to action. All right. Now you got to be careful with your call to action because if you write words like comment below or, you know, like this, share this, you know, things like that, Facebook's algorithm is going to keep it from being seen by as many people. So you got to get a little creative, and this is where emojis can come in, because you can say something like, you know, drop me a, and you can throw an emoji in. And then for below, you can do some pointed fingers, right? You can do some different things, getting creative with your language, as long as it's something that's going to make sense to the reader. That's the most important thing. So you're going to want to make sure that it makes sense to the reader so that the call to action is clear for them. And the other thing is, you know, you can do this on your business or your personal page. You know, these are posts that I suggest really you do on both. You know, if you're really trying to grow that audience, if you're going to try to generate more leads, you really want to be doing these strategies on both pages if you have both, or on your personal if that's all you have. All right. So again, the whole point is to start getting sales without being salesy or spammy, right? And when you do this the right way, you 100% are going to come on, are going to actually get those results. So I hope this has made sense, and I can't wait to see how you put it in action.